America, welcome to your Leo Nation, where we believe in and support the rule of law. Welcome to all of you. Welcome to 2025. And before we get into today's show, which will be fun, there is the horrible reality that 2025 has started off with a horrific terrorist attack in New Orleans just recently. People were killed at the scene. People are in critical condition. We've lost a lot of people since the attack. We had the bombing in Las Vegas. Just horrific. It's a horrific way to start any day, let alone start a year. And we want to acknowledge that. We're not going to talk about that today. We're going to do really a fun recap, I think, of 2024. But we certainly want to acknowledge that. We do not want people to think that we are not concerned and certainly sympathetic to the families who have lost loved ones. So we are keeping them in our prayers, our thoughts, and we wish everything, all good to law enforcement in their effort to locate, identify, and apprehend anybody who may have conspired with the two people who died in the attacks. So we just want to acknowledge that. And listen, we're not interested in being first with every story, but we do want to be as accurate and comprehensive as we can. So we're probably going to come back to this horrific attack and at a later time and talk about that. And when that time's appropriate, that's what we'll do. In the meantime, I'd like to welcome the A-team, part of the A-team today. My big brother, Danny Garrett in California, best friend, Marcelo Aru, current law enforcement officer in California, Anthony Jackson, who's become one of my best friends, producer and often guest on the show. Today, he's kind of doing both roles as he often does. All from California, you poor souls. Listen, your 2025 is kind of set in stone, as your 2024 was, but hope you make the best of it. So here we go. But welcome, guys.
Hey,
I see Danny's already raring to go.
Here how he introduced her, the A-team for me, like the age team. Okay.
Danny, hey, let's get our grammar correct. I know you went to public school in California. It's you are part of the aged team. Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then he goes, oh, my best friends, and he goes, oh yeah, my brother.
Yeah.
Speaking of tokens, my guy.
Well, you know what, Danny? We always called you the darker sheep of the family. Yeah, because that gray couch behind you is still darker than my black brother. But you're doing you need some sun is what you need to get out there. So that's one thing California can help with, can offer up. But I know people say, hey, Mark, get that white sheet down from behind you because we can't see you. That's how dark I am. But you're not much better. So, it is what it is. And Danny, I call Marcelo my best friend. Otherwise, he goes into like a tailspin depression, all right? So don't be so hard on him. Yeah. I mean, he's the best friend I could find. And he's not like my best friend. All right. And then Anthony, he had like no place to go but up from, where I met him. So he's become a better friend. But, so is his coffee cup. Anyway, gentlemen, and you too, Anthony.
Fair.
It is good to have you guys here in 2024. I mean, what a year. And we're going to have fun today. But, on a serious note, another serious note, looking back, going 4 years back and the turmoil that was with that election and things like this. And for those of us who are on the conservative side of life, those were dark times. But I told a lot of my friends that, look, if you were part of the Revolutionary War, if you were a patriot, if you were fighting King George in 1775, things were dark then too. And the truth is that those people were able to live through and certainly be a part of, the ones that fought, one of the most historic times in world history and certainly American history. And I looked at that. I looked at 4 years ago and the ensuing 4 years up until now as similar, certainly not on the same level, but it's been a privilege to actually live through what's happened the last 4 years. As difficult as it's been, we have lived through a historic time in American history. We've witnessed one of the, if not the, probably the greatest political comeback in American history in the form of the Trump campaign and the Trump victory. Whether or not you love or hate Trump is irrelevant. The fact is, it was a huge political comeback. Remember they called Bill Clinton the comeback kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and we all agree. I mean, I don't think anybody here, Anthony, you weren't alive. Anyway, probably voted for Bill Clinton, but none of us say that he's not an amazing politician. He is. He's a brilliant guy. He's an amazing politician. And he did come back from horrible polls and horrible circumstances. He came back to win a second term. He was a comeback kid. And actually, that comeback kid phrase came from earlier, his first campaign, by the way. So what they're talking about.
But
when he was kind of down out.
That was because Bill was hoping that Hillary would stay in Arkansas and he'd go to the White House. That's what happened.
I thought he got that after Monica Lewinsky, but I wasn't alive back then. So.
No, he got something else after Monica Lewinsky, but I'll tell you about that later on after we grow up. But no, actually, the comeback kid phrase actually came from the initial campaign. I think during the primary process, actually, where he came out of nowhere and actually won the nomination for the Democrat Party. But the point is that it was a huge historic event, really, period, that we've lived through the last 4 years. And 2024 certainly was the pinnacle of that period. I mean, just unbelievable things, literally unbelievable things happen. 2 assassination attempts so that, a candidate survives and so forth and so on. But we're going to talk about some, just some general things that whether it's local or state or it is national. 2024 was a crazy and incredible year. And again, a lot of levels, just unbelievable when you look at some of the things that were done, that were said, that people espouse, beliefs people, espouse. There are 42, genders. I mean, there's literally crazy things out there. I mean, just craziness. And people say, "Oh, Mark, you're bigoted, you're blah blah whatever." It's like, go away. Please grow up. Because when we were all, any number of us, I don't care who you are, even 10 years ago, some of the things that are being told to us today would have been considered absolute delusional psychosis 10 years ago.
Insanity.
Crazy.
Insanity.
It would have been insanity. And now you're supposed to accept it as gospel. I don't. So I don't think anybody else here does. So with that said, we're going to have a free-for-all today and have fun with this. But as usual, gentlemen, and yes, Anthony, that includes you, I can't help but start with your current and my former home state of California, because
I wouldn't admit that.
What's that, Marcelo?
I said I wouldn't admit that. Just tell me you were born and raised in Florida.
Yeah.
Hey, that's what I tell everybody.
Yeah, you're just on like a secret spy mission in California right now, right? Exactly.
California.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, one thing about California, the reason why California is always on the map is because California, it's like the big social experiment. What happens in California a lot of times influences what happens in a lot of other states. So California is, and I'm not giving Gavin Newsom any credit. I dislike that guy. But California is the one big experiment that almost the whole entire nation looks at. And what things are happening here in California, once again, a lot of other states will try to piggyback and try to implement in their states. So,
well, Danny, you're right. And there's so many reasons for that, because as backwards as California is on so many things, it still is an economic powerhouse, even though we're going to talk about some of the money issues here in California, but it is a huge economy. It has over 10% of the country's population in one state. Electoral college-wise, it's huge. Media-wise, Southern California, Los Angeles, the second largest media market in the world. It has the largest public school system, failing, of course, but largest public school system in the country. So what you're saying is right. It's a massively influential state. Because of that, we, again, love it, hate it. You have to take California seriously from an influential point of view. So, when you look at California, largest state, population-wise, electoral-wise, and whatever it is, fifth or eighth or whatever that today's poll is about the largest economy in the world. It's one of the top 10 economies all by itself in the world. And within that state, you have Los Angeles County, and two of you live in Los Angeles County, and one of you lives adjacent to Los Angeles County. It's the largest county in the world, in the country, population-wise, and because of that, the DA there, of course, is terribly influential as well. And you talk about historic times, and you talk about movement, and you talk about people reevaluating some things that they used to believe. We had a monumental DA election in Los Angeles County. The whack job, socialist, communist, anarchist, with a title in front of his name, DA Gascogne, got booted out. He lost by 70%, I believe it was, or so, close to 70% in Los Angeles County. Nathan Hochman, who we've had on the show, has taken over. And I have all faith in Nathan Hochman that he is going to uphold the law, which is what you're supposed to do, prosecute the law, which you're supposed to do. George Gascon did not obviously do that. He came in with a different agenda. He came in with the support of, Soros, who is completely manipulative in his effort to really undermine, destroy the American law enforcement and prosecutorial system, the entire country. And he's done a damn good job at it so far. But George Gascon was one of his leading lieutenants in this effort. Right. And he's gone now. So hats off to Nathan Hochman and best of luck to him. But when you talk about George Gascon, one of the things that we can't forget, you think about the flash mobs, and you call them flash mobs. We just call them, I call them riots in California. And Anthony, yeah, there you go. You can just look at this. George Gascon, I'm going to shut up here, let you guys chime in, but you think about his no bail policy that except for the most horrific felonious activity, the people were booked and released right back on the street. And here they are right now. I bet you this is the first time that these people right here are not committing a crime. It's not the first time for most of them. Danny, I know you want to chime in there, so I'm going to shut up for a second.
Mark, I mean, you're doing well. I'm just looking at this. I'm just getting ready to vomit. But the thing is that all this stuff here, George Gascon, George Soros, I mean, all these guys, he's an implant, and all of this, Mark, is purposeful. This stuff here is what George Soros, he saw in the future by putting Gascon in office. Gascon, he understood this is what it's all about. But this is how you break down societies. This is how you change governments, is by allowing these things, and about how George Gascon, how he prosecuted crime. This is how you absolutely break down societies and you change the government system. And all this stuff, it was done purposefully and by George Gascon allowing this stuff to happen. And
yeah, and Marcelo, Danny, sorry, step away. Marcelo, I know you're still currently in law enforcement and dealing with this crap, and it's, if it didn't affect so many lives in all of California, of course, so negatively, it would be laughable. We can't laugh, and we're going to have fun today. But you think about the absolute danger, harm that this man and others like him across California and the country in the form of DAs unleashed on innocent people, and you deal with it all the time, Marcelo.
Well, also a couple of things with this, and I agree with Danny. I mean, this was the destruction of our society here in California. That's what he was looking for. But in addition to that, it was also how to minimize and demonize police work. So the whole defund the police thing that occurred, well, that came and went. But how do you continue to discourage officers from doing their job? Well, you have this happen, and then you let them free. And then officers feel like their job isn't valued. And so they stop doing it. So it was a whole nother psychological warfare that you had against police. So anytime you arrested someone for a robbery, and then you saw them get out the very next day, that did something to law enforcement. They felt like, well, what am I doing this for? And so, it's a whole nother added enemy to law enforcement. And so this was Gascogne's plan. Nobody said that. Nobody talked about it. But I truly believe that discouraging police from doing their job by letting these guys out that have been arrested for 211. The last guy that was arrested, get this, the last guy that was arrested was on supervisory release. What that means, I have no idea. But he was released for burglary, and then we arrested him for burglary, and he was on supervisory release. I don't know what that means. I've never heard it before, but this was something that they came up with, and there you go. And so then,
well, you know what? It's do you guys remember? The term? It's still floating around a little bit. I hope it's on its last legs. Hope it's dying a slow death. But reimagine law enforcement.
Yeah, I remember that.
And
whenever you hear, go ahead.
No, go finish.
But whenever you hear that, the first time I remember hearing this, and Anthony, I'm going to let you chime in from your perspective about being LA County adjacent. But the last time I remember hearing the word or term reimagine law enforcement, when I was sitting on the panel as a chief, a promotional panel for another agency. So I was evaluating people to promote from lieutenant to captain. And that was one of the questions that, and Anthony, you can pause it whenever you want to, just keep the image up there so people realize, hopefully, what Nathan Hockman's going to start getting rid of. But one of the questions to the candidates in this promotional process was basically, what's your position or what's your philosophy about reimagining, enforcement? I go, what the hell, what the hell is reimagining? Someone explains to me. And basically it was a lack of enforcement. It was, okay, let's talk to people and let's keep them out of jail. Let's keep the younger people out of jail. By the way, and I'm all for, you can keep someone out of county jail or out of juvenile hall and get them on the right track. Who wouldn't be for that? But you know what? When you have rearrested the same person 16 times and you know what you ought to start reimagining? You ought to start reimagining whether or not you need a psychiatrist. Because at some point you have to realize, oh boy, there are bad people out there. There are bad seeds. There's a reason that we have laws, because some people are going to rape, rob, kill, murder just because that's what they decide to do. Period. And when I had to sit through this crap, it's like with a straight face and listen to these lieutenants, by the way, from a very, very large, very well-known law enforcement agency trying to promote the captain, explain to me why they were going to start ignoring their oath to enforce the law and now start on a new path of trying to dissuade people through talking more and these programs on and on and on to keep them from committing crime. And I thought, what in the hell has this world come to? Oh, by the way, that line, you guys, everybody listening or watching, you can look it up. Look up Smokey and the Bandit right now. Go to YouTube and look up Smokey and the Bandit and just type that in there. What in the hell had the world come to? It's exactly. Anyway, Jackie Gleason. For those of you who know I'm talking about, it's hilarious. But anyway, so that's what we're dealing with. This is one of the reasons that George Gascon is gone. But Anthony, you're still dealing with some of the I'll say ancillary. It's more than ancillary because this affects everybody in California, especially those of you in Southern California.
Yeah, I mean, I live in San Bernardino County, so I don't see this.
By the way, is that actually part of California? I remember hearing about that when I lived in the LA area, and I thought, God, do I need a passport to get over there?
We're trying to secede, I think.
Oh, you know what? I'll send money to the campaign.
Yeah. But can we play devil's advocate here and see from the other side, the other 30% of people that didn't vote for Nathan Hochman?
They're
These
right there
kids
on the
are. Yeah. They're clearly trying to feed their families. They're poor and they're trying to feed their families. Okay. I mean, there's a guy with a camera.
Yeah.
It looks like he has a whole setup. He has a mic.
It looks like
he has a light, a screen.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys are organizing this and filming it, and they're doing it just because they can, because they're bored. I don't know. I mean, it's clearly because they know they can get away with it. And here's the crazy part, though. I've never seen one news article, and I've seen a lot of these, right? I've never seen one news article saying, hey, we just arrested 50 kids.
Right.
Who raided the 7-Eleven. Don't do it because we have you on camera. But you know what I do see is the FBI hunting down the January 6th people.
Right.
Like hunting them down. Going to their houses, hunting them down. And then all these people who are actively there to steal and do bad things. This guy's recording it. And I never seen one article about it. And I mean, I don't even know what to say about that.
Well, I'll tell you what to say about it. And it's an excellent point. It's an excellent point, Anthony, about what priorities different officials have. And like you said, January 6th, there are literally grandmothers who are still in confinement from now 4 years ago.
Yep.
Who were present or walked into the Capitol, and they're still in prison or in lockup from 4 years ago. But these people are filming themselves, putting it on social media, and apparently law enforcement or the DA resources can't find these people who are committing burglaries and robberies and assaults. Absolutely. Well, it's disgusting is what it is.
But they aren't trying to do that, Mark.
That's exactly right. That's what I'm talking about, Danny. Some priorities.
You take in January 6th, in my opinion, January 6th had nothing to do with people breaking the law. January 6th had something to do with people waking up and countering what they felt was a dishonest election. And so certain parts of our government didn't want that. They don't want people. It's like Mark, we talked about in 1775 and how the colonists here rose up against the British Empire. They don't want these kids right here are mindless little idiots. They like these kids because these kids are like puppies. You can teach them bad tricks and they'll go along with it. They can't teach you and I new tricks anymore. We're privy to it. We're smart to it. George Gascon, George Soros, all these guys, they don't like us because we're smart. We're privy to all these tricks. These kids here, they will grow up to be absolute worthless silly putty. Their mothers carry them for 9 months to create silly putty, and that's what these guys are. But Gascon doesn't want to put these kids in jail. He doesn't want to ruin their life because these are future Democratic liberal voters right here. And
Yep.
that's what this is all about. And
Yep.
this is all about destruction and changing of society. This has nothing to do with, hey, let's give them a break and let's be nice to them and let's give them another chance. Apps that has nothing to do with that. And when you talk about reimagine, Mark, reimagine is, in my opinion, is a communist term to rethink how we're going to do stuff and reimagine how a government our way can work. Not a republic like the United States is, but we want to reimagine things and reimagine. That word has been around for a long time. Politicians, not leaders, but politicians have been using that word a long time to reimagine how we view the future world here. And
Well, Danny, you're right. It's not just your opinion. It is fact that reimagine, especially Communist Manifesto, we talk about Engels, Marx, they use that word or term, whatever you want to call it, reimagine all the time for different capacities. And they're rebuilding, they're restructuring of society. And the reason they use reimagine is because they want you to forget about how things used to be. So now you have to think about, hey, we know you told yesterday 2 + 2 = 4, but I want you to reimagine this. Think about math in a different way. It's exactly what that they have done. And it is, listen, this whole thing, what you said, Anthony, about who are these 30% who actually voted for Gascon? Who are they? It's a great question, Marcelo. I love your answer. There they are, right there.
Right.
But Danny, you summed it up as well. To Marcelo's point, I mean, I know he was joking, but there's a lot of truth in that. Danny, I think you laid it out very well, that this is part of it. They want to ingratiate, when I say they, the people who want chaos, who want to tear down society, so they can now come. By the way, I'm wearing my passing a fire department shirt right now. They want to be the arsonists, so now they can be the firemen to come save the world, save the fire. They started, and I think that's absolutely their plan. Hey, remember when we were letting you out of jail, blah, blah, whatever, we're not prosecuting. Hey, you need to vote for us so we can get more of that. And that's exactly the plan. The funny thing is, I think the numbers show it. It did backfire specifically in the county of Los Angeles. And I think we are beginning to see it backfire across the country. I certainly hope I'm right. Now, to stay in California and kind of on Gascon, ancillary way with Gascon, there's a story that, and again, this story is 40 years old. And again, we're focused on 2024. I know I talked a lot about 20, but this led up to what we're seeing in 2024 with Gascon being booted out and laws being changed, Prop 36 in California passing to repeal some of the craziness that led to some of the videos that we're watching right there. I said, even in California, they're getting it. But California is still California. Gascon, was there until a couple of weeks ago. But there's still this current of just craziness on so many levels. And one of those, I mean, it's hard to believe. I mean, sometimes you look at these stories. I know I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. But how many times have we seen these women who are just falling all over themselves to get close to some convicted murderer or convicted serial murderer? I mean, the love letters and the people getting married in prison, these women marrying these people in prison. I don't understand. I know there's got to be some kind of a technical, psychological diagnosis.
There's some medical term for it, but I don't know what it is.
Nuts? Crazy?
Right. I don't know.
Delusional?
Right.
What of the term, and the reason I was saying, what's that?
I said skanky hoe. I don't know.
Oh, skanky hoe. That's awesome.
I don't know.
And by the way, just so you know, and again, we're staying on law enforcement today. It's your legal nation. So we got Gascon, this next case we're going to talk about, and some other people. But we are going to talk about a skinky hoe in the law enforcement industry here. So just stand by. I got skinky hoe right here on the menu. All right. Well done. Matter of fact, I just realized we have 2 skanky hoes. I got 2 skanky hoes coming up. So stand by, ladies and gentlemen. They're coming. But in California, we have 2 murderers of their parents so far still in state prison. Of course, I'm talking about the Menendez brothers. And here we are almost 40 years later after they cold-bloodedly murdered their parents in their Beverly Hills home living room. And I remind people, if I remember correctly, it was either the mother or the father, one of the brothers shot in the knee or knees, if I remember correctly, before they executed him. So this whole crap about, they were, by the way, I don't know if they were molested. They may have been. I don't know the truth. I think there are only 3 people in the world, maybe 4 if you consider include the mother, maybe she knew, that know for a fact whether or not those allegations are true. But here's another fact, ladies and gentlemen. I personally know, unfortunately, a number of people who were molested as children by a family member who did not do what? Anybody want to guess?
Jill.
Oh, I know. Anybody? They didn't execute their parents.
Yeah.
How is that possible? Even if it's true, even if what Eric and Lyle testified to, one or the other did, I forget. We're not going to get deep in the weeds about the trial, but one of them testified that they were molested by their father.
Yeah,
even if it's true,
even if that's
sorry,
even if it's true, you got to look at the aftermath of that. Their demeanor, the way they just went out, got some of the parents' money, and decided to go on a shopping spree. I mean, that is
bought Rolexes, vehicles.
There has to be something not right in your head. Just
can I chime in real quick?
And go on a shopping spree and think like nothing happened. I mean, according to like the documentation, the dad wasn't completely dead. One of the sons walked out, then walked back in and blasted him in the head.
That was the mother.
I mean,
that was the mother.
The mother
shot her in the face,
right, and right in the face, and it was like, how do you? I don't know, man. I mean, I can't even imagine what goes through your mind to kill your mother and father. I mean, they were privileged kids. They lived in Beverly.
They were sociopaths, though. They were sociopaths, though, Marcel, and that's what it was.
Yeah.
These boys were mentally ill from a long time ago, and their relationship with their father just exacerbated that personality in them. The boys were never. I don't believe. I'm like Mark says he doesn't know, and no one really knows. But me personally, I don't think that those boys were ever molested. I think that those boys had a really changing dynamic relationship with their father. He was Cuban. He pushed them hard. He wanted them to be successful like him. And the boys, I think, were just 2 playboys that had money and they wanted to be kind of like left alone to do what they wanted to. But the father had his own agenda. I think I really don't believe that. And I don't want to halt this conversation, but personally, I think that the molestation deal, because remember when they were caught, what did they say? They said that it was a mob hit. They believed it's a mob hit. And when that fell apart, I think that the molestation was something that they fell back on because it was like, what can we defend the shooting with now? Let's just say that dad molested us, and they knew that people would have mercy on that, and so they went with that, even though, like Mark said, I mean, there's no proof of it at all. And
and Danny, let me chime in here because, again, like I said, you think they weren't. I don't know where they were. I don't know, but I can think about a couple of times. I'm speaking for myself. You probably did too. I can a couple of times. I quote unquote ran away from home because I was mad for mom and making me clean my room too many times, right? But these two adults couldn't get a taxi out of town. They couldn't get a taxi out of town, when they claimed their fathers molested them. So again, let's say for the sake of argument, it's true what they said happened to them, and you're telling me that they simply couldn't walk away.
Right.
They didn't tell anybody, whatever.
Right.
You know why they couldn't walk away? If it's true, because they want the money. That's why, because they want the money. Marcelli made the point about the watches, the shoes, all the stuff. This is the thing. These two kids, I say kids, they're almost as old as I am at the time, young men, evil. That's the word. This is the thing. They were evil what they did. This was complete evil to murder your parents in cold blood. Right. The point of this is that, again, this is 2024 we're talking about. So what happened in 2024 with these murderers, convicted murderers? They petitioned, with their lawyer. Everybody has the right to, good representation, but basically to get their sentence commuted because they're looking at the rest of their life in prison with the original sentence. And who came to the defense eventually was George Gascon. Went to re-examine this, and he was all for, they served enough time and blah, 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 blah. Here he was. Again, Gascon, with crime rates out of control, what is he spending his time with? What is he focused on? Right. Being a part of getting two convicted, cold-blooded murderers out of prison. This is reason number 786 that he was booted out of office. Not soon enough. He should have been recalled before, but finally got him. This is one of the reasons. Now, remember, I opened this little segment up here with about the women who flock to these murderers in prison and want to throw their panties at them and become their wife. I mean, you talk about strange. Listen to this. I had forgotten about this. I couldn't remember when, but Eric Menendez, he got married in 1999, obviously while in prison, and to this woman by the name of Tammy. Her name is now Tammy Menendez. And let me just read this little brief quote. I guess she put in social media. I'm not sure where it was. I think it was. Happy New Year to my dearest Eric. I wish you were here to ring in the new year of your freedom. Tammy Menendez, who married Eric in 1999, wrote on X on Tuesday. This is last week. I'm holding on to hope that 2025 will be the year you finally come home and hopefully don't shoot me in the kneecaps before you blow my head off the shotgun.
So these two
I think that
married.
I editorialized there at the end.
Yeah. So these two are still married?
They're still married. I don't know if they have conjugal visits. I don't know what the system is in California. By the way, anything's possible in California. I have no idea. They may raise kids in prison there. I have no idea. But
you can
idea that
you can get sexual transplants in prison, so I figured everything.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what?
Right. Yeah.
It's an excellent point. You can get that. So why not anything else? But again, this is the part of the whole California left-wing social experiment, chaotic mentality that would the idea of putting these people back on the street. And by the way, I certainly hope they wouldn't harm anybody the rest of their lives. I wouldn't expect they would, probably. That's the point. There's something called retribution, that they deserve to spend the rest of their natural lives in prison. By the way, Anthony, I'm going to chime in with you if you want to talk about this a little bit, but it's just another example of why 2024 was something like out of science fiction.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know about the Menendez brothers until you and Bill Bodner talked about it. And I was like, what the hell? That's insane. I didn't know about this. And when you guys broke down the case, what they did, and as you just mentioned, I'm in the same boat with Danny on it. I'm like, I don't really buy it. They lied several times. They could have left. They had the money to leave, run away. And yet they chose to do something heinous like that. And as far as women going after these psychopaths, I don't know. Even Richard Ramirez had
Yeah.
love letters, and
Yes.
that guy, they caught him. They caught him because of his bad teeth. They said the dentist was like, his breath smelled so bad because of his rotting teeth, and he gets love letters.
Yeah.
And I'm single. I don't know. The world is so backwards. I don't even know anything.
Hey, Anthony, wrong dentist.
Seriously, I know nothing at 28 years old because these guys are getting love letters, and I mean, come on. So I just don't get it. I do want to see what she says about this because
maybe you should go out and kill somebody.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Well, yes, that's true. You're in San Bernardino. No, Danny, he's in San Bernardino County, so he get prosecuted for it.
Yeah, I'll get in trouble.
Yeah, of course he would in LA County too now because we have a real DA finally. But still, you did, listen, Anthony. 2024 was your chance. Sorry.
I know. I missed the boat now.
Yeah, you missed the boat. Now that is pretty good, though. That's pretty good. You're single with good teeth.
But you know what? Going back though to what Mark said, which is what we're talking about here, because this is what this whole discussion is about. It's all the calamity, all the weird ideology of the left. I mean, all the bizarre happenings that we aren't even going back 4 years. We're just going back to January, going through 2024. And like Mark said, this is just the thinking, the weird ideology, the weird bizarre thinking of someone like Gascon. All these criminals, all these crooks that are in prison, they all ask for clemency. They all try to get all these rehearings. It's like the guy in South Carolina. Counsel is this lad that the black guy who killed those two white tellers in South Carolina. He told the FBI that he had planned on going there and killing somebody that day. He staked out that bank in South Carolina for over a week, and he went in there and he just viciously killed these two tellers that completely cooperated with them. They weren't resisting nothing, and he shut them down. Now that, of course, our great president, Booger Biden,
hey, by the way, it takes him longer to remember his own name than it took you to remember it. So don't worry about that.
Tell me about it. And good old Brandon, he sits there, and now he commutes their sentence down to life without parole. But now this guy who's on death row, who killed just maliciously without any type of forethought, he kills these two women who were completely innocent. He kills them, and now he wants to be released on a compassionate release because he said that he served his time in solitary confinement, and that was whatever. Okay, and I'm thinking, but this is how the left wingers think. This bizarre type of thinking, and I'm sure that the fact that he's asked for this clemency, someone's going to actually review it and think about it. And this is what we're getting back to what Mark was saying, how just all this stuff, even with the Menendez brothers, it just that the fact that somebody's out there, that these people are out there advocating for the release, is, to me, it's just like I just
Well, Danny, it's beyond words. Now, again, I know we're focused on 2024, but the reason I said that this is not just California. Like I said, it's this leftist mentality. It's all there is to it. And if we think this is bad enough, and it really is, but we can go back to Tukey Williams, who also, in the most vicious, cold-blooded way, murdered a number of people in one night, 2 different locations, by the way, in one night, with shotguns and laughed about it as he was watching people die and talking about, oh, how one guy was gurgling and I laughed for a while, then I shot him again, and he killed grandparents. I mean, one of the most vicious, just most evil people you can imagine. Again, we're talking about a level so low here, it's hard to distinguish one from the other, but they're all at the bottom of the evil barrel. People, actors and politicians, he was finally executed, like literally 3 decades after he committed these crimes. Right. Finally. And you had people pleading, oh, he's written these books and he's been such a great citizen in prison and things like this. And you scratch your head and say, look, just tell me that you don't want the death penalty, that you're totally opposed to it. Right. I disagree with you. Right. I disagree with you. I think you're wrong that we never, ever use it. But just tell me, I don't want the death penalty for anybody, whether it's the Menendez brothers, whether it's Tukey Williams, whether it's Adolf Hitler. No death penalty for anybody. Okay, I know where you stand. But don't tell me that this guy shouldn't be executed because he's done so many wonderful things since the murderous night where he engaged in the most heinous crimes you can imagine. Don't tell me that. Tell me when to get rid of the death penalty. So this has been around for forever. I don't understand it. And then what I really love is that people come around and when these things happen as someone that they know, someone close to them, then their attitudes, kind of change about what should be the penalty for the perpetrator. But that's kind of getting off on a tangent there. But it's just one more example here. I was reading more about this wife here of Eric Menendez. Again, completely, in my humble opinion, completely off the sanity rails. But, what do I know? I guess she picked this guy out of a mugshot and said, that's the man for me. I love that guy right there. And I don't know what dating site that is, prisons.com, but she got her man. And again, Gascogne was trying to...
Thugs for jugs.
Oh my God! Someone's gonna take that one right there. That URL's gone already. Yep, thugs for jugs. There you go. Oh my God! It's we laugh about it, but oh my God, it's just what insanity. But again, 2024, wrapping up in that, it really was perfect because it ended Gascogne's term in Los Angeles County, and he kind of went out with a bang. What's one of the last things he advocated for was making sure these 2 murderers got back out in society. It's one of the last things. That election where he got booted out was so apropos. The timing was great. Right. Goodbye to you, George Gascon, in 2024. I hope you go to an island someplace and live the rest of your life outside of anybody's visual contact. So off you go. So staying in California, and it's our last one in California because, again, it's the gift that keeps on giving. 2024 was the year in which an audit was done. And that audit found that the commander-in-chief, the chief executive officer in California, a guy by the name of Gavin Newsom, had lost $24 billion of taxpayer money in the effort, I'm putting this in quotes here, in my own quotes here, the effort to deal with the homeless problem in California. Before we went on the air, we were joking. It's like, man, if I lose $24, man, I can't sleep. Like, what are those 210s, those 401s? I know I had that. I had $24 in my wallet. And don't let my wife find out I lost it because I'll be sleeping outside on the patio. But the governor of California, who, by the way, let's all just call it what it is, a huge part of why the homeless problem in California is the problem that it is, said that he was going to fix it. Again, the arsonist becomes a firefighter who shows up and sprays gasoline on the burning structure, by the way.
It's true. It's true.
Can't account for $24 billion of taxpayer money that supposedly went to homeless. I don't know what, look, I was there for a long time. When I was when I was chief of the Highway Patrol in LA County, and I dealt with this all the time. I dealt with on my freeways, all the overtime that was expended, all the manpower, all of the resources that went into getting these homeless encampments off of state property, off of the freeways, from around the Reagan building. Marcelo, I know you're down there a lot. It was state property right in downtown Los Angeles. All of the effort, time, and money that went into this, including this $24 billion over 5 years, by the way. And again, this came out in April of 2024. So we're talking about 2024. And, you see him there talking. We didn't turn the sound up on this. You guys can watch the video. But this is a man in this press conference when he's asked about this, and to their credit, some of the media did the best they could to interrogate him about it. This guy rambled like never before. He rambles all the time. This guy, I've never seen anybody who speaks so beautifully and says nothing. A damn thing. It's vacuous. It has no substance whatsoever. And here he can't give an answer. The answer would have been this. You know what?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, at least Kamala Harris uses metaphors and stuff. This guy doesn't. Like,
oh yeah.
I don't know who's worse.
Hey, you know what? If you put strings on Gavin Newsom, he'd be a perfect puppet.
Wait, would you say Marcelo?
I said at least Kamala uses metaphors and different accents to get her point across.
Yeah, exactly.
It all depends where she's at. If she's at a all black church, all of a sudden she's like, and then I came.
Well, what's happening, Mama? What's happening, sister?
It's so cringy, and I don't know if you've heard of the Hillary Clinton one. That one, oh my, it makes me just.
Yeah.
Of course we heard about that. Now, gentlemen, Anthony, continue. Don't lose your spot there. But listen, we're going to get to. I said she was one of our superstars. We're going to talk about here before the show is over. Kamala Harris. But go ahead, Anthony.
I was going to say, you know what else he was able to actually keep track on is his new $9 million mansion in Marytown.
Unbelievable.
Look at that. A neighbor said he's not getting a pie from me. Look at that house.
He's not getting a pie from me. I just saw that. It's actually a quote there.
Yeah, exactly.
$9 million. Right? Now, by the way, I wonder how come he didn't build that house like in I don't know, Danny, maybe Avalon and Imperial. He could have bought a nice property there.
Danny,
what do you think, Marcelo? Maybe in Newton Division. Yeah. That would have been a great area to build.
Oh man.
Huh?
Is it still in did he buy this in California?
Oh, that's a wine country. It's Marin County, right just north of the San Francisco.
It's next to his winery he never shut down during COVID. Remember that?
That's right.
That's one of the most expensive areas in the nation.
I think it's nearby his restaurant that he doesn't have to pay the minimum wage.
That's right, because they bake bread there. Yes, exactly right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Now I know we're getting deep in the weeds there about that one, but about the
there's layers to this.
There's so many layers there. Now, by the way, Anthony, one of the reasons that he didn't have time to shut his winery down during COVID when everything else was shut down is because he was spending every day eating at the French Laundry, so he couldn't get back over to shut things down. Right. By the way, on a side
that's
note,
understandable.
It's understandable, right? I mean, you don't have so much time in the day, right?
Yeah.
I actually met a chef. I'm not making this up. Here, where I live in the Panhandle of California, a couple of weeks ago, my wife and I were at a restaurant, and one of the chefs there used to be a chef, and he was there at the time at the French Laundry the night that Newsom was there. I mean, you talk about a small world.
Wow.
And he remembers, that night. But it's again everything. It's all for you. The law, the rules are for you, not for me.
Right.
And here we go. $24 billion. Everybody else in California, again, 2024 story. But it exemplifies the mentality of the elite. By the way, to be fair, not just those on the left, the elite mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And the $24 billion, again, you have to understand, ladies and gentlemen, $24 billion. All the time that people are, the billionaires, like, Bernie Sanders talking about, he used to say millionaires and billionaires because when he was identified as a millionaire,
Right.
he took the millionaire off. Now he just says billionaires. The billionaires, blah, blah, blah. This is $24 billion of taxpayer money that Newsom is responsible for. He is the boss, the chief executive in California. He took $24 billion from California taxpayers to alleviate a problem for which he's a big part of, responsible for, and he can't find it. Now, again, the stories of money being diverted to special interests and illegal things happening, they're all over the place. I can't substantiate any of that, but it wouldn't surprise me about where that money went. It was supposed to go to all these NGOs that were supposed to help to alleviate homelessness, but we don't know where it went. Aside from that press conference, I actually watched the hearings in the California legislature, and nobody had an answer. Nobody had an answer as to where this money went. But there are people who still vote for him and people like him who can't keep track of $24 billion, but they would like for him, and he wants to be the president of the United States at some point. He'll be running the next cycle around.
On what?
Well, before he does, he needs to get rid of...
That's a good question. Anthony, go ahead.
I was going to say, before he does do that campaign, he needs to get rid of whoever said this was a good idea to go to Skid Row and ignore all the homeless people that are yelling at him.
Yeah, that's great, by the way.
I mean, look at this guy. He's just walking around with the Starbucks coffee cup, and people are like, hey, we need more trash cans because there's trash all over the street, and he's just walking past them.
And he's doing that. Sure you do. Yeah. Sure,
and that cup is empty. You can't even throw it away anywhere because there's no trash cans.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, this is...
Look at these guys are heckling him, and he's just walking by them.
Look at all those, and I know personally some of those California Highway Patrol guys, not to give away their undercover status, but like, duh. Jeez, are those just citizens walking next to the governor? No, they're not. But these poor, and I know these guys. I know a lot of these guys, and think, oh my God, Mark. I said, no, I get it.
Jesus.
Yes, but I don't know if he's in Sacramento or where he is.
I think he's on Skid Row. He's in LA.
Oh, it actually said Skid Row.
Yeah.
Because there's more than Skid Row. They have him in San Francisco and Los Angeles. But
we have plenty. We got
plenty in California. There are a dime a dozen.
Yeah.
But here he is. I think Marcel, you're going to say something?
No. I'm just. No, go ahead.
Mark,
Danny hit it.
Say was understand the homeless situation does not want to be solved. It doesn't want to be solved. It's a good talking point. It's something that you can run on your ticket to say, yeah, we're going to go out here and we're going to solve it. We're invest like Karen Bass. We're investing on this money into it. But like you said, Mark, what happens with this money is this money goes to all these NGOs. The NGOs get to make it because all these NGOs have all these fake names to them. Joe's Healthcare, or whatever it is. American Society, American
Joe's Healthcare.
Yeah, whatever. What the NGOs say.
Then you got the name right. It's Joe's Healthcare and Plumbing.
Yeah, niggas.
Yeah.
Niggas helping niggas. Whatever. Some kind of jacked up name that they have that they use. And so the feds, the state of California, they give all these NGOs money. Well, they all filter and they wash all that money and stuff. They pay themselves, and then they give the money right back to Gavin, Newsom, or whoever who's running for office. So this money just gets circulated between them. We have no idea where it goes. There's no track of it because what happens is the homeless population winds up expanding even more, which is good for them. And so it's never going to be resolved. All that stuff right there is just all, what they call it, donkeys and ponies or whatever, donkey shows or whatever it is. It's just all make-believe crap. And that's all that. This homeless situation, the only way to solve the homeless situation is to basically build concentration camps and get big shovels and scoop them up and throw them into those camps. And that's what it is.
You just got to get Xi Jinping over here.
Well, you know what? I know I sound like Hitler or whatever, but that's the only way you're going to solve this is because the ACLU argues, well, you can't take them off the street because and you can't put them to because they've got to have a place to go. That there's civil rights and stuff. But see, the thing is to me is that the way I look at it, they don't have civil rights because they don't pay any taxes or anything. That is my sidewalk that they're sitting on, and I want them removed.
Danny, let me expand on that. Look, everyone has civil rights, but here's where civil rights stop. Your rights are not allowed to impede on another person's rights. That's the problem. I mean, that's the point. So homeless people are protected under the Constitution. They have civil rights, but it does not give them the authority to impede upon your rights. That's the bottom line. So what you're saying is absolutely right. You cannot negatively impact my business. You can't sit in the front door of my Subway franchise and interfere with my commerce, with my livelihood. Your right of movement does not supersede my right of movement. So free movement. That is the point. So yes, no one has the right to defecate in public. No one has the right to walk around naked in public. No one, by the way, I don't know if it's still illegal in California. It used to be 647F, Marcelo. You don't have the right to walk around intoxicated in California. Right, exactly. I mean, am I wrong about that? And now again, it's not enforced anymore, but you don't have the right to walk around drunk, otherwise intoxicated, high, to be a danger, yourself or others. But it's not enforced anymore. So your rights stop at the doorstep, literally, where it interferes with someone else's rights. These are things, this is part of the chaos that the establishment in California has sown and perpetuates. And Danny, you're 100% right. Homelessness has become a huge industry.
Right.
A huge industry. And these NGOs, I didn't go into it too much, but you're right. It's a massive money-making system for non-government organizations, NGOs. Is exactly right. Marcel, I think we're going to say something. I stepped on you.
No, I was going to say that, this goes way back, and and you guys know, I think Ronald Reagan was one of our greatest presidents ever. But one of the biggest
as do I, Mr. Arun. Thank you for saying that. That's the best one. That's the best impersonation I can do.
One of the biggest mistakes I think he made was getting rid of asylums, and we need to be able to bring those back. And that was to Danny's point. We need to bring back. And look, there's hope because in California you can change names and have the same thing. Abortion in California is called reproductive rights. See, you just
right.
There you go. Rebranding.
Yeah,
it's a communist term. It's communists are there all the time.
Yeah, I don't.
Yes,
they
rebrand stuff.
California Dreaming Institute. There you go.
Yeah. There you go. California Dreaming Institute.
Hey, Marcelo, and I tell you right now, in defense of Ronald Reagan and shutting down all of these mental hospitals, the thing is, Ronald Reagan, when he became president, he saw that across the nation that these mental hospitals weren't being used. Because remember, homeless people don't like to go in these places. We have plenty of these places for them to go to. But they stand on the street. They won't even go there. I mean, I worked in LA for 30 years as a fireman. And trust me, I went on homeless people all the time. They don't want to be housed. And so Ronald Reagan saw, and so what was happening was the feds were giving them money to support these things, but guess what? People were getting paid to do absolutely nothing because these mental hospitals were empty. So Ronald Reagan said, listen, I want to shut down the federal funding to all these things here, and I'll let the states go ahead and run their own operations. Well, guess what every governor said? It's a waste of money. No one's showing up. So the governor starts shutting down all these mental hospitals. It wasn't necessarily Reagan that did it. Reagan shut down federal funding and said, you know what? I'm going to shut it all down. You guys figure it out.
Yeah. So
well, then he did both. He did as a governor. He shut things down too. But a lot of that was from political pressure from the other side of the aisle too for other funding. But the point is this, and you talked about, moving people to camps and things like that. I know some was tongue in cheek, but here is the bottom line, that we as a society need to start making it uncomfortable for people to live on the street. So whatever that looks like within the law and within the scope of morality, we need to start making it as uncomfortable as reasonable for people to live on the street, to live on the freeways. This is the point. Not to encourage it, not to put more resources out there for people to engage in sex trafficking, prostitution, drug use, drug trafficking, and engage in all kinds of other criminal activity in the street. You need to make those things uncomfortable, not encourage it. And that is what the state of California has done. And on top of that, they have used taxpayer money under the auspices of, hey, we're going to solve the homeless problem if you give us more money. And they lost it, and it got eaten up by these NGOs, and it's made a lot of people very, very wealthy. That's 2024 California for all of us, ladies and gentlemen. I want to move on to two of our I want to maybe say final topics, but the ones I've written down and you guys had talked about offline as well. And look, one of my favorites, I don't know, I'll say it. I think she's a fan favorite. And that is, I call her Fanny Fawny Fatty Willis. I don't know how you pronounce her name. Fatty, I think, is the most appropriate one. This, of course, is the Georgia prosecutor. We all know who she is. I don't need she needs no introduction. You talk about Christmas coming early in 2024. This whole case, we're not going to talk about the details of the case because it's all disintegrating, as was predicted by so many people. All disintegrating. This election interference case, which she has no authority to prosecute, and on and on and on and on. But man, in 2024, when the stories start breaking about Fanny, I think she calls herself Fawny. Again, I have fun. I call her Fanny Willis because I think it's disparaging. I like it because she deserves to be disparaged. By the way, you guys see the video, Anthony. Thanks for putting that up there. Just pause it for a second, Anthony. Just pause it. Ew. I have been on the stand under oath. I don't know how many times, literally. I mean, from any number, whether it's traffic or it's criminal, it's misdemeanor, it's felonies, it's felony prelims, it's civil trials cases. I've been on the stand I don't know how many times. And I look at her, and then of course, being in courtrooms, I've watched how many witnesses? Certainly hundreds of witnesses over the years. And I got to watch her when she went up here to answer to the allegations that she had engaged in really an inappropriate relationship with the man that she picked to prosecute Donald Trump. And that there had been financial impropriety between the two, that really it was a case of money laundering when it comes down to it specifically. And we'll get into that. But my point about being under oath on the witness stand and watching witnesses, I consider myself, quite frankly, an expert on this. And when I watch her, and I don't think you have to be an expert, when you look at her demeanor on the stand, the word liar just pops right out like a gigantic caption over her head when I see her testify. Right. And they go ahead and play it. I don't even know where it says in the video, but just go ahead and play it. We don't hear the audio. But when you look at her physical demeanor, this person is on the defensive from the start. Now, one thing I look at, by the way, when you look at her breathing, Yeah. It looks like she just got finished running the mile run. Now, for her, that would take about a day, but that's a different story. But look at her, how she's breathing. Look at her chest heaving. This is a person. Now, again, she's the district attorney of Fulton County. You would think she'd be used, maybe not being in the witness stand a lot or any, but she's certainly used to being under, scrutiny from defense attorneys, from judges, and things like this. This person is petrified right now. She is petrified. And I'll be honest with you. This is the person who was so bold, who was so excited, who was so determined, who had no problem whatever going after, stop it right there, Anthony, stop it right there, going after the former president of the United States for election interference. And now she's on the hot seat. Now she's on the hot seat. And now she knows what it feels like to be the one being scrutinized for real inappropriate behavior. And the other thing I want to say is, we watch the whole thing or whatever, the ticker's gone here. I think she could have picked a more flattering piece of clothing to wear, but a lot of reasons for that. But I'm going to stop it right here. We're going to talk more about this. I'm going to let this video play in a minute, but pause it right there, Anthony. So, Marcella, what's your take on Fatty Willis?
So Fatty Fani, here's the thing that this is the thing. Hold on. Here's the thing that
calm down.
Yeah. I don't think this woman would have done this on her own. And this is where I think we have to get deeper into the weeds of this. I think she was emboldened by someone much higher than her, possibly the White House, to go after,
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, to go after our current, well, soon to be current president. I don't think that this person would have had the courage or the gall to go after President Trump. And so on that, is she a liar? 100%. 100%. Was she emboldened, what I believe, by the White House? Absolutely. I think that, I don't think there's a dispute of that. She was also known to, she had gone to the White House, I think 7 or 9 times prior to charging President Trump with this heinous charge or whatever it was, this frivolous charge. So I think we haven't seen the last of Fatty Fani. I mean, I think that this is going to continue in 2025, and I think that we're going to really get into the weeds of how she even came up with this stuff.
Yeah, you know what, and Anthony, before I say anything, go ahead and you kind of support Marcel's theory about she didn't do this by herself.
Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing, because my assumption is that she was being someone's useful idiot, because you can see her demeanor, like you said, she looks petrified up there in the stand. And if she was really felt convicted to do this case against Trump, you would think that she would be acting and moving differently, and she isn't. So that tells me personally, just what my opinion is, that somebody higher up told her, hey, you're going to do this, it's pretty much guaranteed you're going to be at this status after you do the slam dunk case. Here's what you need to do. And that's really what I'm thinking that it happened, essentially. So
yeah, you know what, and Danny, I'm going to give you your time on this, because I know you've always had quite an attraction and infatuation for Fanny. But listen, it's to each his own. I don't understand it, but anyway, it's like you said, it's come out that she visited the White House a number of times. We'll just say a number of times. I don't know if we're going to be sure about how many. And now it seems to me, if I remember correctly, reading reports now, that there were direct communications with her office and the White House legal team, things like this, in relation to prosecuting Donald Trump. And again, that's what I've been reading. We'll find out. I know they're going to be some state legislative investigations into this now, apparently in Georgia.
Hopefully.
We're going to find some things out. But going back to my point earlier about, this hearing here was strictly about her relationship with Nathan Wade, her boyfriend, who she handpicked to prosecute this case. By the way, who had only prosecuted misdemeanors up to this point. I mean, it's mind-boggling to think that there wasn't something nefarious going on. Forget any money. Forget the personal relationship. Why would you pick, by all accounts, like the least qualified person in the legal world you think of, to prosecute a former president in the middle of an election campaign for campaign interference charges? Why would you pick that person? It seems like there'd be any number of 1,000 lawyers, prosecutors in the state of Georgia. If you're going to go out with this contract, which is what it was, you could have picked almost anybody in the world to prosecute this, but you went with somebody who was eminently unqualified. I mean, this is the thing. I mean, completely unqualified to do this.
Yeah.
And then you throw on top the personal relationship, you throw on top the money, you throw on top of the contract and how that was really manipulated over the time. You think, boy, this is dirty. So that, Danny, I know you're chomping the bit, so go ahead.
Mark, I mean, you kind of cleaned up what I was going to say. And I've heard other people, say stuff like, agree with Marcelo and agree with Anthony. This gal to me had a hero complex. Like you said, she was the least likely person to go that you after someone like Trump. Why would you send this incompetent rookie after Trump? Someone who didn't even, she had no experience whatsoever.
No, but Nathan Wade, her boyfriend, is what she picked, was a misdemeanor prosecutor.
Exactly, was a complete loser.
Yeah,
she's a loser herself.
Yes,
but her team was. So
that's the exact reason why they chose her, though. It's because they knew that she would follow the orders.
Yeah,
right.
But the thing is, so Anthony, this is how I always looked at it. I just think that on her own, now she had communication with the White House, and they were saying stuff, and I think she took it upon herself, listening to everyone talk. So, you know what? I'm going to be the hero. I'm the one that I'm going to take down Trump myself. Just like Letitia James. Heck, she ran her whole campaign on taking Trump down. To me, that was a conflict of interest there. Right. And I think she took it upon herself to say, you know what? I'm going to show the Democrats what a DA that I am. I'm going to go out here and I'm going to take this guy down on my own. She got her worthless boyfriend to help her out, a complete losing team, but she wasn't getting direction from the White House. She took it upon herself to do this because everything that she did was just like, why would someone do it this way? Mm-hmm. And I just think that once she got into it and got a head start, the White House couldn't call her off at this point in time. They said, okay, you know what? She's already started the ball rolling. She got way ahead of the game. To call her off, it's going to look bad. So let her go ahead and do her job. And she completely flubbed it up. And that's how I see it.
Yeah, I agree with you, Danny, that the White House, you got to think about this. Why would the White House invite a Fulton DA to go visit them 7 to 9 times? For what?
But there was already controversy going on.
What does Fulton have to do with the country? I mean, she's so low on the...
That's what I'm saying.
I'm saying that
now
she's
that
so
part,
low on the
I can't answer that part.
Why would you have to visit the White House 7 to 9 times? I mean, that just
but why? I'm like Mark though. Why would you get this scarecrow to scare away an elephant? You're going to get somebody with an elephant gun to scare away an elephant.
Yeah, I'll tell you why.
You brought this in.
I'll tell you why, Danny. Because of the fact that when this backfired, and it did, who did it backfire on? The
Clearly her.
the totem pole,
Mhm.
which was her.
Yeah.
The White House
Well, and you guys both raise, great points about, and Marcel, you said it earlier, about her visiting the White House. Look, let's give her the benefit of the doubt here, right? And the White House. Let's say that they were simply invited there for tea and photo ops with the president, and nothing else was ever said. This shows you how much of an amateur administration that we've dealt with the last 4 years, because any 20-year-old strategist, anybody with common sense will say, hey, you know what? It's not a good idea to invite Miss Willis to the White House right now because she's engaged in prosecuting the former president of the United States. Mr. President, your current opponent, and your current opponent is making these allegations that the federal government, your administration, sir, has weaponized the federal and state and local prosecutors against him in order to impede his campaign. So let's not give him any more ammunition. In other words, anybody would say, no matter why she's coming here, it's not a good idea. Don't do it.
Don't do it. Right.
So disregarding that obvious faux pas when it comes to just common sense and strategy, she went anyway. They invited her anyway. Now, again, none of us here on this show, I don't think anybody who's fair-minded thinks that she went to the White House that many times before and during, after Donald Trump was indicted by her, and they didn't talk about this case at all. They did not coordinate this case at all. That is complete disregard for reality. Anybody believes that. We know it was happening, whether it was official or just nudging and, hey, you ought to do this and blah, 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 whatever. And here's some information we have. We'll never know for sure. Maybe we will know because that her target is going to be president in just a couple of weeks. And so we'll find out what comes out of this. But
you know what, too? I like to add just salt in the wound here. I don't think that it's incompetence or anything like that. I think it's straight up them just not caring what people think about the optics.
Well, Anthony, I agree with you.
Them.
I 100%. And I
we want you to see that we're working with her.
And
That's how I see it.
Yes. And I apologize for stepping on you. But in other words, if it were innocence, my point, if these visits were innocence, you would have somebody with two brain cells slapped together say, hey, it's not a good look. To your point, it wasn't innocent. This is why she was coming. You're 100%
it's not incompetence either.
No, it's not incompetence. No, it's intentional. And you're right. Yeah. It's in your face. It's arrogance. It's disregard for public sentiment. It's disregard for integrity. They didn't give a damn because they thought between these cases, New York and Georgia and whatever else was going on, that in January 6th, and the documents case, this guy's going to federal prison, that it's going to completely turn public sentiment against him. It all backfired. And the irony is that the irony, not only did it backfire, it probably, almost certainly, well, we know for a fact, every time he was indicted, what happened to Donald Trump's poll numbers? They went up. So I guess backfire is, or boomerang, whatever term you want to use, is actually what happened. But it actually worked exactly opposite, or came out of what so many of these people, certainly like Letitia James and Fannie Willis and others, really had anticipated. Anthony, do me a favor, just play this video where we're talking a little bit, and I want to go back to her demeanor. Again, this is about, you go ahead and play it, this is about her involvement with Nathan Wade and whether or not there's a conflict of interest in this relationship. And again, I just find this fascinating. I watched most of this video the other day because just watching her body language, watching her eyes, and here we go. This is a great one. When she picks up these documents and starts flashing them at the attorney who's questioning her, it's incredibly disrespectful. She does it to the judge as well. By the way, this judge says, hey, look, lady, look, DA, knock it off. I'm going to hold you in contempt, because she was completely disrespectful to the judge during this. If you guys watch this entire video, terribly disrespectful. But this is a sign to me. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not a psychiatrist, but I have witnessed a lot of testimony. I've given a lot of testimony, and I'm pretty good, I think, at this point with body language in these circumstances. And this person was operating from a position of deceit and from a position of fear because she had something to hide. Those of us who, and at least 3 of us I know, have been on the stand in whatever situations, when you go up there and know what happened and know what you believe, it's not fun to get examined, but it's like, hey, I'm going to answer the questions and tell them what I know, tell them what I believe.
Right.
This person has something to hide, and we all know that's the case. I think this particular case is one of the most fascinating and one of the most pivotal, won't say moments, but period of 2024. Because to me, it exemplifies the extent to which a number of people, organizations, entities went to take out their political opponent. It really was the pinnacle of this overall, kind of 4-year period that I've talked about that, I'm so grateful that I was alive to live through, to see someone like Donald Trump. And again, you don't have to like Donald Trump or not. It's not the point. The point is that someone stood up and said, hey, you know what? Throw that at me. Throw that at me. Throw that at me. I'm going to keep fighting for what I believe in. And he overcame, the greatest odds I think anybody could imagine, notwithstanding the 2 assassination attempts. But that's why I wanted to play this. But this testimony, and I watched it, months and months ago when it was live, as much as I could, and watched her demeanor. And I thought, man, this woman knows that she and Nathan Wade were up to no good. By the way, as at least a couple of her friends also testified. People who were her friends, at least one lady, I can't remember her name, said the same thing. Oh, no, she's lying. That's what her friends testified to. So we're going to close this chapter up. Any final thoughts on Miss Willis, other than the fact that Dane's got a crush on her? I don't want to be too mean about her.
Please kill me. Please kill me.
Danny, you sound like Al Bundy talking about his wife.
You know what? I know why Danny likes her. He wants all the money in her mattress. That's why. He's a little gold digger, aren't you?
The money in the mattress that her dad told her to stash away. That money, Anthony.
Yeah.
Actually, I think she's wearing a mattress actually right now on the stand. But anyway,
I was gonna say, just the fact that you mentioned a mattress that this dirty. Oh God! Keep the money, okay?
Take the money.
Never mind.
That's what you call dirty money, right there. Yes.
That's very dirty money. But you know what? You made a really good point, and I like what Anthony said too about optics, because there's one thing about the left wingers. They do not care about the optics. They could rob a bank and then tell you, I needed the money or something. They could blow it away. But what you said about they threw so much at Trump, they just figured that it would all blend together and nobody would notice anything, that he would finally get convicted on this stuff and go to jail or whatever. And that's so true. They threw so much. Just figure, it doesn't matter if we make mistakes here or there, because no one's really going to pick those mistakes up. There's so much stuff floating out there, they won't pick it up.
Yep.
That's true. About
and they may think, who cares if they see it?
Yes.
We're going to get them.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to get them somewhere else.
Who cares?
And that's they're all blended in with the optics and all the charges. They're all blended in.
It was all one part of one strategy. There's no doubt about it.
But let's move on.
Well, Danny, be careful what you ask for. Out of the frying pan. This is it. Remember, guys, Danny asked for this. Okay. By the way, I'm seeing a pattern here, Danny. You want to move from one crush to the other?
Come on, dude. It's like, okay, listen.
I know. I should have.
I'll talk. The money's over there.
I should have put a warning.
You should have
up
put
on
a
this
warning.
picture, man.
Exactly.
I robbed the bank last
Yeah,
week.
you know what?
Okay.
You yeah. What you should have done, and you should have put a warning. You said, anybody with sight, please be aware. The next,
I think we're 7 months behind. Halloween was back in October. Okay, I mean, my God.
Oh my God.
What's this scarecrow doing, staring at me? Danny, talk. Okay.
Well, let me tell you about the scarecrow. What did the scarecrow do? Say that in the Wizard of Oz? Oh, that's right. Danny is perfect. It's perfect. The scarecrow was going to see the wizard because he needed a what?
A brain.
Right.
I mean, how perfect is this? Matter of fact, I think Kamala, she found it amusing too, Anthony. You want to play with that clip?
Let's do it.
You're considered the most liberal United States senator.
Somebody said that, and it actually was Mike Pence on the debate stage.
Yeah. Well, actually, the nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator.
Let's talk about packing.
You once again gave a non-answer. Joe Biden gave a non-answer.
Trying to answer you
The
now.
American people deserve a straight answer.
And is that a socialist or progressive perspective?
Be important if you said the truth. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week.
You landed haymakers on Joe Biden. How do you go from being such a passionate opponent?
It was a debate.
She looks scary right
Ron
there.
Gold
Oh my
said that
gosh.
he is for the
Oh.
legalization of marijuana recreationally. Your thoughts on that?
That he's entitled to his opinion.
Legalized all throughout the country and medicinal. Would you do it?
Listen, I think that it gives a lot of people joy, and we need more joy.
Oh my God. Yeah, look. No, that's a person who wanted to be the commander in chief. Right there.
Dude, I am so glad I had coffee before you played that video.
Now, you guys know what a brain is. A brain is inside your head. Inside your head is a brain, and around your brain is your brain in the skull.
Yeah.
And remember, on top of your head, you have hair, and then you have 2 eyes and a nose and a mouth. That's what a brain is. Come on.
Danny, listen, I just want to be unburdened, for this next piece here, okay? All right, just unburdened.
Now, Kamala, they just bombed New York with a bomb.
Imagine 4 years of that.
Imagine 4 years. Man, I can't imagine 4 years. It's impossible. It really is. We're gonna wind up the episode with her because look, I don't know. I guess there are a lot of top stories in 2024, but of course, I guess the most impactful one was the election. Ultimately speaking, this person, Kamala Harris and Marcelo, you texted me the other day, said, "Hey, I want to talk about this and you can explain why you wanted to talk about her." And I there are any number of reasons, but go ahead and take the lead on this one.
Well, to me, it was the problem that, Kamala Harris, she had a few problems. One, she couldn't get I mean, but number two, the Democrats had a problem because they couldn't just out the president and the vice president. That would look really bad. So they had to go with her. I mean, that's like going with a dead horse or a 3-legged horse.
Drag the dead horse.
But that was their choice. That's all they had.
I love it. And Marcel, you made the point offline about this is a person who never got a vote in a presidential primary, not one single vote ever in one campaign or the other, and I'm sorry, right? The satisfaction I feel about this entire episode involving Kamala Harris is really beyond description. Let me just say this though. This was a result of DEI, of progressive mindset about inclusion and equity, and I said DEI, diversity, all these things. This is the reason this happened to the Democrat Party, because they did it to themselves. They did it proudly. And going back to 2020, when Joe Biden said in his campaign, I'm going to pick a woman of color, period. That's it. That's it.
Right.
So what I'm going to do, I'm excluding everybody white. I'm excluding, obviously that would include white women, all men. They're all excluded. You cannot apply. Don't even call me and say you want to be my running mate. You can't. Yeah, anybody smart. I don't care. I don't care about your intelligence, your experience, unless you are a female. By the way, at that time, apparently the Democrat Party could actually define female, apparently. Right. Now they can't, but back then, so a woman of color, I don't know what woman means. I don't know what woman means, so whatever you feel like. But Joe Biden knew what it meant to him. So he discriminated against whatever percentage of the population, a huge percentage. The vast majority of the population is not female of color, right? So from that point on, I said, this is the Democrat Party, where they can openly and proudly and enthusiastically discriminate against the vast majority of Americans. Proudly. I'm going to only consider a woman of color. So he got what he promised. He got a woman of color, and depending on what, like you said, on what period in her life, what campaign, what talk show, she's either Indian or Black, or generally Asian for Indian, whatever you want to call it. So she's very flexible in those categories as well. And some other categories I hear as well, according to Willie Brown.
You know what? I'd have to disagree with you about the woman of color part. Because they wanted a Black woman. And
now, by the way, Anthony, I want to chime in because Danny and I are offended because you said they, like them people. So what are you talking about? What are you talking about, person of privilege on my show right now? I want an answer.
Look, I'm using my privilege card right now, so let me talk.
You know what? Where's the delete button on this thing? Go ahead.
Are you using a pronoun or they, thus, them, whatever, a pronoun? Or...
Oh, you know what?
No. Oh, you know, actually, I'm glad you said they, because I will define they.
Oh, okay.
If Joe Biden was a real president, he would have chose somebody who would be competent and win. And you know who that woman would be? Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah.
She was a Democrat. She was a woman of color. She just wasn't the right color. And she wasn't on the right team, even though she was a Democrat. And that's who they are. They are the people that are actually of Joe Biden. That's my opinion.
I'll tell you right now. I mean,
and she was Indian a couple years ago, and now she's Black, and it's because they wanted a Black woman.
It depends on what period you're talking about in her life, because she plays whatever card she needs to. But it's very rare, Anthony, that I actually say, "Hey, that's a good point" with you. I gotta say, I'm putting this day. What's today? I'm putting this date down.
Hey,
so I remember.
I got a couple of those on this episode.
It sounds like you shot your wad for the entire year. With that probably done.
Yeah, and it's only day 2.
Yeah.
Shit.
But it is kidding aside. It's a brilliant point that they had Tulsi Gabbard, and I will say that I think Tulsi Gabbard, had she run against Donald Trump, would have been a far more formidable opponent than the cackler in chief. I mean, I don't think anybody would disagree with that. Military service, she is well-spoken. She's very measured. She's very concise. She seems to be fearless, kind of like Donald Trump. She'll talk to anybody who will have her, any place, anytime whatsoever. She's attractive. She's charismatic. She had everything going for her, and so did the Biden administration. Now, maybe she wouldn't have been on the ticket, but maybe they talked to her. I have no idea. I don't know. But it's a great point. But for some reason, they chose the cackler in chief right here, and and we see what happened. People talk about on the side, you watch The View, which, I watch it so people listening to the show don't have to. I don't watch it all the time, but I watch it more than I like.
Thank you for your service.
Yes. I'm just trying to get into heaven the hard way. And I'm just, look what I did, Lord. But you hear over and over that no one ever, I mean, literally, I should pull up some of the quotes here because they're out there, that she's the most qualified person ever to run for president. I saw people say that. I read an article, so I'm thinking, I by the way, I wouldn't say that about hardly anybody. I mean, anybody, whether it's Ronald Reagan or whether I wouldn't say they're the most. I say, hey, they're qualified or they're not or whatever, and we'll see how they do in the term. Danny, go ahead and chime in.
I would say,
you going to say something?
Other than George Bush Sr., who I felt was a very qualified individual to run for president, of all the different things he had done in his military career and his political career, I was going to say that other than Tulsi Gabbard, he was probably, I would say, probably one of the most qualified guys to run because he had an extensive resume. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, there are people out there. Certainly, I feel they're very qualified, but I would just say, hey, this person's highly qualified. Right. But say that, I mean, here's a person again who never got a delegate vote, not one in 2 campaigns. She dropped out. I mean, she couldn't even win her own state, couldn't even carry her own state. I mean, it's amazing. But again, because of DEI, she found herself a heartbeat away from being president. And with Joe Biden in office, that's no small statement. Closer than most vice presidents. But this is what happened. I think that, in other words, it's poetic justice, I think, really kind of, in the ultimate sense, because she's really, when you think about it, she's really the pinnacle of the expression, the application of DEI. It's really the pinnacle. Yeah. Here, we're going to say it loud and clear that I'm asking to be my running mate because you are a certain gender and you have certain genetic, features, your skin color. So everything else is subordinate to that. Your experience, your qualifications, everything else, all other characteristics don't matter. Only those immutable characteristics matter. It's the ultimate expression of DEI, and she was the ultimate expression in the political sense, running for the top job in the country. And here's what we got. Now, talking about this, and this is the fun part, I think about her campaign. Here's a person who wants to be the president of the United States and ran a campaign that spent between, I don't know, $1.5 billion to $2 billion and comes up $20 million in debt afterwards. And we still don't know, I don't know if we'll ever know, how much of that money was spent paying celebrities to either perform at her rallies or to endorse her. I think that's one of the most fun parts here. Somebody's going to say something.
A Democratic footprint. I mean, Gavin Newsom, $24 billion in the hole. This one, $20 million in the hole. After having $1 billion budget,
over
or more,
over $1 billion budget,
or more.
You're right.
Yeah, it was at least $1.5 billion, at least.
Yeah, but that right there should just scare you from ever voting for someone like this. You know what? I'm encouraged. I'll say that. Starting 2025, I'm encouraged that the American people saw through this charade, through this farce. I mean, to oust your current president because you knew he wouldn't win against Trump, and your only recourse was to go with her because you couldn't oust them both. I mean, They put themselves in that hole, and you know what? Thank God that they did. Because if they would have had a Tulsi Gabbard as vice president right now, Trump would have had probably a hard time.
I think so.
I think he would have had a hard time. But the American people have spoken loud and clear. I mean, to win not one, but all the swing states, to win the popular vote. I mean, it's just, and now the Democrats, what are they doing? We got to get rid of the Electoral College. It's you know, I don't think the Democrats are the Democratic Party of JFK anymore. I think they're a bunch of dictators. They want the process to work, or they love the process that when it works only for them, when it's their guy winning. I mean, in my lifetime, I don't think I'd ever see a party oust your own president because you knew he wouldn't win against the opponent. It's just
well, Marcel, it's a great point, and of course, again, they found themselves in that particular situation because they had lied to the American people about Joe Biden's his cognitive ability, his state, almost from day one when he was inaugurated in 2021. And so they had to keep this lie up because once you start lying, you got to keep going and going and going and going. And if they had come clean, he would have had to leave a lot sooner. They couldn't say, oh, you know what, he's not all there, because now the 25th Amendment, or just out of political pressure, he has to resign. And then they know that day they're stuck with her.
Well, man,
it
I'm
could have been
telling you
in
right
2022.
now, the Democratic Party did Corn Pop wrong. They did him wrong.
Well, you didn't mention there was a Black Swan event that happened during his presidency.
No, Anthony, don't lose your plot. I prefer to call it African American Swan. I know your white privilege doesn't allow you to be thoughtful, but I'm going to help you out. But go right ahead.
Thank you. There was an Adderall shortage.
I'm missing something.
That's how they keep him coherent.
Adderall,
Adderall and a mix of other drugs. I mean, there's no other explanation as to why he can get up there, talk for a little bit, and then he starts just slipping away. That's my theory.
Well, it's a good theory.
I just came up with it right now.
Well, but it's a good theory because sometimes it seems, not anymore, by the way. Oh my God. When we just saw him recently, trying to address the nation about the New Orleans a terrorist attack.
Dude, he looks terrible.
3 minutes, and it was 3 minutes, and he could not keep his place. And by the way, something like that, anybody with any type of public speaking ability almost shouldn't need a note card or teleprompter. You just go out there and speak from, hey, here's what I know, here's what we're working on, here's what I directed my agencies to do, and blah blah blah, whatever, and get the hell out of Dodge. But you're right, Anthony. I would not be surprised if he had been on any number of assistance substances over the time to keep him functioning. From time to time over the last 4 years. But again, it's because they lie, and now we know they've admitted that they knew that he was impaired going back at least to 2022. No question about it.
Yeah.
And almost to the day before he decided to step down voluntarily, they were telling us that he's running rings around all the staffers in the White House. I mean, this is evil. This is absolutely lying to the American people.
Sharper than a Ginsu.
Yes, sharper than a Ginsu. And this is what happened. But this is why the coup had to happen. And this is why Nancy Pelosi was behind it. They were desperate. And I'm sure that Kamala Harris was not Nancy Pelosi's first choice. But at that point, the ship had sailed. They didn't have time for any type of another primary. They may have wanted to do it. It wasn't going to happen. It was going to be too messy. If they had a primary, guess what happened? She would have been in the primary, and she would have gotten beaten up again in the primary. And by the way, she might have beaten up somebody else in the primary right before they had to go to the ballot box in November. It was too messy, it was too late, and it was all too much their own fault. Yeah. You guys, the three of you, I'll start with you, Marcelo. I'm going to give the final word on Kamala in 2024 and outlook for 2025, and we'll move on from there.
Yeah, I'll tell you, the one thing I appreciate about Kamala is all her different accents. I mean, anybody with that kind of talent does not have my vote.
By the way, you guys can look it up. My favorite one of all, I know they talk about the church and this, and my favorite one of all is actually when she was dressing a Hispanic audience, and she tried to say, just look it up.
I love you too.
I love you. That's it, Anthony. You got it. It was the most cringy of all of them. Of all of them, the most cringy.
Pretty bad.
Anyway.
Unbelievable.
Danny, What do you got for us?
Can we move on from Kamala, please? Let's just move on.
Yeah, we're moving on from Kamala. I'm giving you the last word for the show.
That's all I got to say about this gal. I'm gonna put her on my front porch saying guarded by a mean dog and have her face up there.
Well, I hope we are moving on. I'll finish up here. Anthony?
I'll do a prediction. I think she's going to be some type of host somewhere on CNN or MSNBC or something like that. I think she's going to be cackling a lot. Yeah, I think this is not the end of her that we see her, and it's going to just bring more suffering to Daniel. I feel for him. But other than that, I think 2025 is going to be great. I have a lot of faith in Trump and his whole squad that he's put together. I love a lot of things RFK Jr. is doing. Tulsi Gabbard, I'm a fan of her. Just in the political realm, I think we're going to be doing a total flip side. And people are critical right now of Trump, certain appointees, that he wants to be in his cabinet and stuff. But I'm like, dude, it's either this that we just seen, her cackling for 3 minutes straight. Imagine that for 4 years and the deep state running it still and all the bad and turmoil that's happening. Or at least come on. You have an A team right now working. So he's ready on January 20th at 2 p.m., he said. So I'm ready for that. And I'm looking forward to 2025. I think it's going to be great for everybody. We have Nathan Hochman as our LA County DA. I think a lot of things are going to be turning around. So I'm hopeful. And despite the recent events that happened yesterday, I think things are going to get locked down come January 20th. And that's what I'm hopeful for.
Well said.
Well said, Anthony. And I'll second that. I'm hopeful for 2025 and the years beyond that. I think we're in good shape. I will say this: when you look at you're talking about Trump nominees and Trump cabinet as we know it so far, and how it will likely look. It is going to end up being one of the most diverse cabinets in administrations in American history. But here's the irony: it's not based on skin color or one sex. It's diversity of individual ability. And those individual abilities come in all shapes, sizes, sexes, colors. And when you look for ability, period, when you look for someone to fit the role that you need, naturally, you will find people from all different persuasions in the human race. And so it's working out beautifully. Ironically, the Trump administration is going to practice serious DEI, but not for DEI, for the betterment of federal government and the American people. And I'm very, very excited about it. And the best to the administration, best to American people, and to the best of my friends on this show. To all of you, God bless you for listening. We urge you to subscribe, to watch, to listen, to share. It helps to get the word out. God bless America. We're looking forward to a great 2025 and beyond. God bless those victims and families in New Orleans. And we will comment on that as the investigation progresses. Until then, we'll see you next time on Your Leo Nation.